Good morning, Nadia. It's good to be sitting down with you, and I'm excited to talk to you a little bit today about kind of how things have changed over the past couple of years in our industry with people moving from traditional office space more towards considering flexible or serviced office solutions. It's exciting to kind of be talking here. I mean, it's 2020 now, but the first time you and I actually worked together was in 2013 when both of us were working very much more in a finance role and everything like that in the same office. And our roles have kind of changed since then.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, the industry was in at the time is so different.
Yeah.
Our office, majority of office, like, those small 5-person office, that's like majority of our offices. And people who rent office, the perception at the time, for being in a flex space is more perceived as temporarily, or perhaps you are entering new market, so it's a test water. You perceived as very, unstable. Well, traditional space at that time is more considered stable, and you're committed to the market. Therefore, you are in the traditional space.
Exactly.
Right. That mindset has shifted so much.
Definitely, and I mean, I think the profile of both kind of the industry as a whole, just in terms of awareness of what flexible workspace is, and kind of as a traditional office tenant versus as a flexible office tenant, the difference between those two options has really kind of become a lot more publicized, and people are a lot more aware of their options. What do you think has really been one of the major reasons that we've started to see that growth in awareness, or the shift towards people wanting to take more permanent flexible space or larger flexible spaces?
I feel before this COVID, the shift from traditional to flex actually already has been happening so much.
Okay.
The flex space has sort of become the mainstream.
Sure.
Even before the COVID, I think from our own product, you can see we still have the 5-person, 8-person office. However, we have since then add so many 20 to 50-person office, because those corporates who has big team are accepting the flex model, and they have been moving to us. So yeah, I would definitely say the product has been mainstream rather than the unstable solution.
Definitely. And I mean, it really kind of, I don't know, we started working together in 2013, but it seemed like the shift kind of pre-COVID and kind of before 2020 really started happening in 2015, 2016.
But the COVID definitely accelerated this change.
Yeah.
That's, in the near term, when the COVID change is happening, and many companies rush to a temporary space for a business continuity plan.
Yeah.
That surge of need for short-term space really pushed the flex space to be on agenda of many companies' needs, because any BCP plan sort of involved some kind of a short-term space. So after this COVID, I feel this discussion really going on, continuing. There's a big question of, is your office future-proofed?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like this is discussion on a lot of people's agenda.
Exactly. Well, I mean, with so many businesses, I mean, both with TEC, but also especially with our clients, I mean, even with COVID and kind of the challenges that people were facing, the world keeps spinning, right? And the time keeps going on. It's not like they just can pause their business one day and then wait for everything to fix it. So a lot of clients, I'm sure that we've seen, have, they have a lease coming up that ends in the next kind of 3 to 6 months, and they're making decisions about, are we going to downsize, or do we need to move, or anything like that, right?
Think about the scenario. If you have like 20,000 square feet space with a traditional space, and you realize you actually only use half of the space right now. Yeah. So what you're going to do, I guess you can talk to the landlord to downsize. Yeah. Yes or no from the landlords, and also you have to look into like how physically to cut the space. Is that possible to put in a corridor? And if you can, you still need to go through the hassle and the pain to restacking the plan, and maybe you have to move some, move your team out and move back in. It's just so much work. So.
And I mean, you have to pay for it, right? I mean, right now, nobody wants to spend any cash, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Rather than having to make all those changes. Whereas, at least with Flex, people, even if they're going, to half or a quarter of the size of the office they used to be, you're not having to buy all of the furniture up front. You're not having to pay for all of the kind of lighting and kind of heating, ventilation, air conditioning work and all of that stuff. So it smooths out that process for clients who, might be in a difficult situation or really are just looking to more strategically manage their real estate, right? Yeah.
Also the question of like there's so many employees asking for like work from home or work remotely.
Yeah.
So how do you respond to that request? Do you allow people to work remotely or would you build a satellite office or how is that going to do that really impact real estate strategy as well? Yeah. This the flexibility is so valuable in this like such uncertain words.
Right. COVID is definitely the most recent global economic impact and things like that. But we've been through a number of them and everything. Obviously, there have been challenges to kind of trade, the trade war between U.S. and China, and then previous economic kind of slowdowns and downturns such as GFC in 2008, 2009, and even the dot-com burst before that. And every time TEC has really seen, things do slow down a little bit, and we have exactly those clients that you're talking about that are looking for downsizing or looking to more strategically manage their real estate footprint. But 6 months, 12 months after these downturns, companies need to start growing again. And if you're in a traditional space, you can't easily just add 10 more people, 15 more people. Whereas with the executive center, kind of in a flexible space, we're always happy to work with you, either adding to your existing office or tearing up the lease and moving you to a new, larger office or something like that.
So let's talk about the costs. I guess that's one of the main considerations when people are choosing office from either traditional or flex model.
Yeah.
You work with numbers.
Yeah, I do.
And you calculate all the TEC center feasibilities and how do you see that cost compare in each model?
A lot of the clients that are looking to take space either between traditional or a flexible option are really evaluating, are you going to do a project on your own, once every 3 to 5 years or whatever a new lease cycle comes up? Or do you take space with a flexible provider who, has efficiencies from, we as TC are generally adding about 20 to 30 new centers a year globally. So we have a kind of a stable running process. So for someone that's trying to build their own traditional workspace, you have to find a designer, a project management team. You have to source all of your materials, and you're not really buying in the quantities to get, bulk discounts or efficiencies from that. And furthermore, if you're a financial services business or a professional services business, office fit out and design is not your kind of core focus and everything, right? So I think a lot of those are really the challenges that a lot of traditional tenants face when you're taking, say, 3,000, 5,000, 8,000 square feet or something like that. Coming to TEC, because we're frequently opening new locations and things like that, we're able to get larger supplier agreements with kind of some of the brand staples that we have in every TEC center. So, I mean, the Timothy Olton furniture that's kind of within our lounge and kind of reception areas, the Herman Miller Aeron chairs that are in all of our workstations, the 9 a.m. sitting and standing desks, all of those we're able to kind of buy in bulk and then pass on that savings to our clients. So we can achieve higher quality at a lower price point. The other thing, though, I think really from a cost perspective that's important is because real estate is all about how much space you take, really dictates what rent you're going to get. So the more space you get, the more of a discount you can get on rent. TEC is usually taking at least 20 to 30,000 square feet when we take a new space. So that means our deal with the landlord will be a lower base rent than if our same clients went to our same landlords and tried to get a quarter of a floor or a third of a floor, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. So again, those are savings that TEC is able to kind of consolidate along with the construction costs and pass that on to our clients. So you're able to get, a nicer office with upgraded branded materials and things like that at a more affordable and higher value than you would on your own, as well as you're able to afford to be in higher quality locations. I think in terms of cost, because we're taking bigger amounts of space, and this is something that we focus on doing all the time, we're able to create more value that we give on to our clients. And that's really where we focus in terms of doing this, to be able to pass on that value so that even if you are a very high profile company that only has a small office requirement, you can still get the best office space within the markets that you're operating.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also another element of cash outlay.
Sure,
right?
Of course.
Cash is king in this world. So when you have like build out your own office, you have to spend how much per square feet of the fit out cost. We spend probably close to like 1,800 Hong Kong dollar per square feet.
That's
right?
about right. Yeah.
So if you multiply that to the space you have, that's a huge millions of dollars goes to capex that may or may not work for you.
And that's all
in 2
immediately
years.
sunk in.
Yeah, exactly. And as well as reinstatements.
Yeah.
After you leave, that you have to tear down everything to bare shell, and that also costs a huge.
Definitely. And, you know, I mean, if you're a business decision maker and everything, that really kind of anchors your business because you become tied to that office. You've invested kind of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into these office spaces. But, you know, if you need to double the size of your office, you're going to have to reinvest that money all over again 2 or 3 years later. Whereas if you're kind of with a flexible office provider, you're able to kind of, you know, flatten out or amortize that investment over the entire time, and your needs can change as you need it. A lot of times we've had clients that have really kind of doubled or even tripled in size over a 3-year period. But in Hong Kong, on average, you have to sign a 3-year lease with a landlord. And because the market is strong enough in terms of demand, landlords don't have to be very flexible. They're not going to let you double your space after a year and a half or give back half of your space a year and a half later. And, you know, especially with things like COVID that can change your business circumstances so much, and, you know, your office needs change, that cash really becomes important. It's a really good point. Yeah.
When so many people are working from home or working perhaps in a cafe, or there's so much space options they can work at. Now, when companies want to pull the employees back to the office has to be nice.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise,
Exactly.
people will like, so the office has to be like attractive or nice enough, like to almost like induce people like.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's really been kind of one of the biggest changes now, especially, but even, you know, since 2013. I remember kind of the offices people wanted 7 years ago really were kind of everyone wanted to be within their own space. They wanted everything to be very private and confidential and kind of no sharing and everything. And so there were functional areas in the office. But now, you know, especially in 2017, 2018, we really changed the way that we were building our spaces to kind of make a lot more open spaces like this. Both so that, you know, clients who are sitting in their office can come out and, you know, work in a different area, take a phone call, have an informal conversation or meeting like this, but also, you know, really just enjoy the space a little bit more. And I think the clients especially have really placed a higher value on being able to feel comfortable in the space that they work in, because they want their workplaces where we spend so much time to really be more dynamic and have more options for the way that they need to work.
The productivity
Exactly.
has definitely increased so much being in a space like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the choice of where you work in our newer space compared to older way has like sixfold.
Right.
In the past, you can work in your desk, or perhaps you sit in the pantry for a little bit, but you don't usually work there.
Exactly.
And you're passing by reception, and that's probably it. But right now, you look at our, you know, space like this, you can work in the booth, or can have a phone conversation in the phone booth, or like the booth area for one-on-one conversation, or like this, or co-working area. So there's so many choices. You can bring your laptop, work anywhere. Yeah. I think the happiness also increased a lot.
I mean, I think 2 other aspects that are important kind of when clients are considering flexible space is, first of all, really, you know, a lot of clients take their corporate identity very seriously, you know, in terms of the way that their office space is laid out needs to really reflect a lot of their corporate brand values. So, given the fact that we're in a shared workspace, how do you kind of work with clients to make sure that that's achieved for them?
Actually, that's a really good point, Todd, because one of the drawbacks for flex space is people worry that their culture, their team definitely just blend in with the flex space operator. For some company, that's preferred. For smaller, usually smaller kind of a business, but for big corporations, that's definitely not preferred because they want to preserve their own culture and identity. So in TEC, we actually care a lot because we've been working with corporate. We understand their requirements. So we work a lot on allowing them to continue have the corporate identity. So you have the lounge, that's TEC lounge, but you have your own workspace. Like your space is definitely entirely yours. A case in point, we recently built a space for Ericsson.
Okay.
Yeah, not only the space is dedicated, that they have their Ericsson logo, but when you step into the space, it's completely Ericsson, from details like the little font, it's their corporate font. The color is like the Ericsson corporate color, as well. A little detail like, the name on the meeting room is their some Swedish name. It's definitely been in a similar kind of feel when their office in Europe. It's all like, same kind of a feel.
Exactly. And I mean, I think especially as, we're working more with these, we call them kind of bulk or customized clients and everything like that, is, a TEC office from day one, if you have a laptop, you can move in, plug in your computer to a power outlet, connect to the Wi-Fi and work. It functionally meets those requirements. But, I think we really do focus on making sure that we're customizing, especially these larger units for teams of 15, 20, 40, 50 people, so that it really reflects that company. We don't brand any of this space as the executive center, right? It's not too many logos and everything everywhere. There's definitely style and everything from an interior design perspective, but we try to make each center be a little bit unique so that clients who are more partial to one or another or something that suits their corporate identity better can choose between those. Obviously, for kind of enterprise deals such as Ericsson or things along those lines, we're able to do a lot more customization and everything like that. And really, if they give us these are our international brand guidelines, can you build exactly this? That's very easy for us because our job is really to execute on what the client wants in terms of the office, rather than to say, we build the best types of offices, so you need to kind of just accept what we've built or something.
Yeah. So in a way, the line between traditional and flex actually very blurred. We are in a flex space. However, we deliver a lot of product that's kind of like traditional space, like looks no different from traditional space. It's managed by TEC.
Exactly.
And you can have access to lounge, so you can get the best of the both worlds.
That's the hope, right? Yeah, absolutely. I know one thing that kind of goes hand in hand with corporate identity is also security, right? One of the biggest concerns, particularly for corporates, is making sure that their premises and kind of data are secure. So how do you kind of work with clients to address that?
Security is utmost important for corporates, from the physical office as well as the IT infrastructure. So as you know, we invest so much on IT to make sure our clients, our corporate members are really well supported for their whatever requirement that bring their own line or the server, segregation. We have a huge team of IT to support the client's requirements. So that is really the most important thing. Yeah, I think in the end, we want to provide a solution, not a cookie cutter solution, is to support our member, the corporate, to thrive in our environments, be it security, be it the corporate identity. We don't limit. It's the client's demand we follow.
Especially with larger clients who need kind of customized server requirements or bandwidth or anything like that, our IT team can kind of consult and work with their IT departments, whether those are local or, making calls back to Europe or the US, wherever those people who are configuring or directing those networks really are, right? In terms of the people who are choosing to flex, kind of what types of business situations are you finding that clients more recently are in where, a flexible office solution is what they're choosing to go with?
I think first and foremost, people need flexibility.
Okay.
that's your business is kind of become a little bit uncertain, that you want to wait and see how the market conditions and to react. So that group of the company use flex space the most. Secondly, to be honest, recently there's a lot of company who need to contract their space. They need downsize, and they move from traditional to us. As discussed earlier, people are in the 20,000 square feet space. Maybe they don't need so much space now, so they need to come back and return some back to the landlord, or they can move.
Are these tenants that are kind of in the same buildings as we are, or like what kind of, is it grade A or premium buildings or things like that? I mean, why do you think they're looking to downsize into kind of a flexible space rather than, just taking permanent space and maybe a cheaper location or a different neighborhood or district than where our offices are?
Since most of our product and in the core CBD area, so majority of company are still, they were in the buildings around in the core CBD area, and then when they look into downsize, they probably don't want to sacrifice and the nice building, and they move to somewhere really remote. So ideal solution for them will be smaller size, but in the same sort of district and in a nice building, ideally. And if the space come with really nice fit out and really nice experience, then that's a plus.
Great.
So usually, nearby.
And I mean, clients that are downsizing now, right, aren't planning to stay at this kind of smaller footprint and everything forever, right? So I mean, there's also kind of, I remember you kind of mentioning a little bit about clients kind of choosing to come with a temporary flex space as kind of maybe bridging the gap of a solution until their business needs grow or kind of other opportunities come up, right?
Also, risk is always cycle driven by supply and demand. So if you find yourself in a point of the cycle that you think the downturn in next 1 to 3 years could happen and allow you to capture that opportunity, it also makes sense for you to move to a flex space. Take a 1 to 2 year short-term solution, and then when the market is really bottom out, then you go for your traditional space and sign for long term.
And you lock in a good deal, right? Okay.
That's what you do.
that's the hope.
Another trend we see, and we actually work a lot on, is the satellite office. And we have global path. We have 135 centers globally that most of the centers have launched like this. Some company like 50 people, but right now maybe only 10 people that per time need to be in the office, and the rest of 40, they could be in the home, or they could be just get a pass from TEC and work in any of our centers. That definitely is also a trend.
Exactly, right? I mean, it gives a little bit of options in terms of where you're working and things. I mean, sitting kind of in our head office and everything, which is the dedicated office and stuff. I know you see me around the centers all the time, because for different meetings based on, where our clients are or which landlords or agents I'm meeting with, I'll just kind of book different meeting rooms in different centers. So on top of kind of that global pass where people can kind of, one person can get access to our entire network of offices, we also have something that's kind of the reverse of that, where, like one client can work with a dedicated account manager that really helps them manage a network of space all over. Kind of over the last couple of years, especially, I think a lot of fast-growing companies, or particularly tech or digital agencies or things along those lines, have really been looking to have kind of a network of office spaces with the same provider, so that they know it's the same kind of quality, that people understand their brand and stuff. Do you maybe want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we see really a surge in the inquiry about having a single contact point, but implement their risk strategy, switch from traditional to flex in more than one cities. I think for those companies, it makes sense for them to find one partner, flex space partner, that makes sense, that's suitable for them, so they can change one city. But if this model works for them in one city, why not copy to multiple 5 cities they have in Asia Pacific, for example?
A lot of companies have kind of made their real estate policies that, any office of less than 30 people or, 5,000 square feet really should be in a flexible office rather than in a traditional office for larger than that. Because if you think about it, with smaller requirements than that, if you're in a flexible space, you get the benefits of a very large kind of shared area. You have a very professional looking reception, kind of a comfortable working space and everything like that. If you're taking only a 15 to 20 person office, you still need to build a reception. You still need to build your own kind of meeting rooms and kind of coffee point and pantry area and stuff. But you're just not going to get the same efficiencies of space if you're sharing that with a variety of other people within a flexible space.
With all these trends happening with flex space, how does the landlords react to this?
Well, it's definitely something that landlords have gotten progressively more and more interested in, both as an industry as well as understanding really what's going on inside of their buildings. So kind of 5 or 6 years ago, a lot of the time, some landlords would be very interested in what we were doing, and other landlords would really just be treating us as any other tenant. Very concerned about rent, making sure that we have a strong covenant, that we're a good tenant for the overall profile of their building. Since then, I think with flexible workspace becoming so much more prominent in property, and a lot of high quality, big multinational banks and kind of professional services firms really looking for flex space within buildings where they take space, landlords have gotten a lot more interested. So conversations we have with landlords now are a lot more about landlords asking, what is the look and feel of our center going to be? What kind of tenants are we looking to bring in and clients are we looking to serve? But they're also asking, what functional spaces can you help us provide kind of as amenities to the rest of the building? So we're in a number of very large kind of buildings with 80 plus floors in them and quite a lot of space and everything like that. In those buildings, landlords have kind of asked us, can you deliver, let's say, some amenity space both for your tenants, but also for their larger tenants. So we operate things like conference spaces. We operate a variety of meeting room floors and things like that. And we're also able to offer other tenants within the building access to TEC's lounge spaces, TEC's kind of additional services and things. And so in that way, landlords who are still very much focused on building kind of the hardware of office buildings and things, but more focused on concepts like placemaking or amenitization of space, are looking for TEC or flexible partners who can help them increase the value or offering of their building. We're always working in partnership with our landlords that, when a client becomes too big or really needs a traditional solution that would be better for them, we're referring those deals onto our landlord to make more space for the clients that are looking for flexible workspace.
So we help incubate.
Exactly, incubation. And it becomes kind of an ecosystem and the same thing. And there have been kind of a number of cases where clients will start with TEC, grow out of TEC and take space from the landlords, eventually run out of space in that new space, have to take a little bit more from TEC until more space becomes available. So it becomes a bit of a revolving door in a good sense, not of clients leaving and things like that, but of TEC and a landlord being able to work together to provide a better experience for, blue chip target clients that the landlord really wants to have in their building and offer them something special in exchange for kind of the premium that all our landlords are really looking to earn in rent.
Interesting. So landlord more view us as their partner or as even a differentiator for their building.
Exactly.
When they're competing with all the other buildings, having a good flex operator is kind of like good amenity to have.
Exactly. I mean, it's a real estate market, so rent is always important, but I would also say that landlords are much more concerned with the quality and the brand that is coming into their building, because that becomes reflected in, which clients are we bringing in who might potentially grow up with that landlord, what's the quality of our space going to be, and how does that reflect on the building. The way we've built the offices, we're constantly changing and updating and making new types of offices and trying to experiment with different spaces. But what do you think is going to come next if you had to make a prediction?
I think that the driver for this change, which is flexibility and the experience for the workforce, these two drivers are here to stay.
Sure.
So I don't see any, I will see this not only will stay, but will evolve. The only thing not going to change is the change itself, the old saying.
Exactly.
Yes.
No, of course. I mean, and it's very true, right? I mean, 20 to 30 years ago, business cycles for an individual businesses would plan 5, 10-year business plans and everything like that. Obviously, we still have 5 to 10-year business plans, but we all know how quickly those plans can change with, technological change, kind of global economic change or anything like that. So I think the reason that Flex has been something that's a lot of clients are turning towards and becoming more popular is because it really reduces kind of transaction costs and allows businesses to more quickly respond to those changes as they come.